This episode of XIV Reborn is brought to you by Audible. For a free 30-day trial and a free audiobook, head on over to audible.com/gamebreaker and get your read on by listening. Hello there, Internet! Welcome to XIV Reborn, episode 22 for January 14th, 2014. I am quite clearly not Gary Gannon. I'm Mike Byrne, aka Magic Man. Gary got a little tied up before the show. Probably be back next week, but we didn't want to delay things anymore, so let's have the 2.1 mega review. We've got a lot to cover, more speculation on patch 2.2, and what the hell is Heaven's Turn, but joining me, you know him, you love him, you've missed him, Mr. Happy, Michael Poveromo. How are you, sir?
I'm doing swell. How about you, Mr. Byrne? How was your long vacation from the show?
I can't complain too much. I mean, I had some damage with the polar vortex. It was not nice to the house.
I went cave troll mode and said, that's out there, I'm in here. Good luck, everyone.
Well, you also had a New Year's present, right? You have a new addition. You talked about it on your stream, so I assume it's okay to bring it up here, right?
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
So what
new
happened?
Addition to the family. I have a little nephew Jack. Jack Happy. That's what we're going to call him. I am Uncle Happy now.
So you are now Uncle Happy.
I am now Uncle Happy.
Teaching somebody else the ways of Final Fantasy. Well, congratulations, sir. It has been a while, guys. It's been about 4 weeks with last week's disasters. Ugh. But last time we were together, 2.1 just dropped hours before the show. Literally hours before the show. So I think now, Happy, it's time to do, like, the full review.
Yeah, now we've had even more time than we originally planned.
Right. It's been 4 weeks. You've got videos out on most of the content. I think combined we've covered it all in some fashion, writing, written, audio, whatever. We've all chatted about our initial thoughts. But let's actually do this in a score fashion. And chat, we encourage you to play the home version of XIV Reborn, where you put the scores on the board. We're going to use a 1 through 10 system here. We're going to talk about features. You give your score as we go along as well. And I think we should probably start off with PvP. Gary's not here. It's okay to talk about it.
I guess it's okay to talk about it. You know.
I called it, after a few hours, an amusing distraction.
Amusing distraction?
People did not like that. They said you should do more than one match, even though I had before I make that opinion.
What was it, 2, I believe?
Yeah, I had like 2
more
or
than 1.
3, something like that.
That is truthful. They did say more than 1, and you did do more than 1.
I still stand by it, though. I've done an awful lot more since then, but I'm still standing by that. So where are you on PvP right now? Let's talk about it.
Okay, so here's where I am at PvP right now. The only problem I have is matchmaking. That is the only problem I have with the PvP right now, is that you have rank 1s going up against rank 30s, and the way PvP is designed in 14... You know, most games, if you feel like if you don't get into PvP right away, you get left behind. You know, and it's like that with most content. But when it's gear on top of abilities, it's even worse when it comes to feeling left behind. So the fact that not only that, but the whole 3, you can queue in as 3 and go up against a completely random team, that whole aspect too. That's really where I see the biggest problem right now. And everything else is fine. When I get into even matches, they're fun, they're fast-paced. You know, if you make a mistake, it usually does cost you, like you'd expect in PvP. But those fair matches, unless you're queuing as 4, which most people don't now because they abuse the system with the whole 3-in-1 thing, that's really where the problem is just the matchmaking. So I think if they can iron that out, more people will definitely enjoy PvP because it'll be they will be actually allowed to be introduced to it without just getting stomped by people who have been doing it ever since it came out.
I think there's more than that, though. I mean, even Yoshi P, in his little
comment.
letter, he says, "Oh, I've been having fun in PvP, sleeping everybody,
Putting everyone to sleep."
Right.
Parentheses, LOL, parentheses.
And just at the end of that, like, you could hear everybody that wasn't a black mage go, "You son of a... I can't believe you just said that." And there's other issues, too. I mean, granted, the queuing, yes, I see what you're saying. But there's the sleep issue. The diminishing returns on sleep is not good. The way it's set up, it's just not good. The balancing is off. And there's also technical issues right now that are severely crippling this. Like, hey, guys, while we're fixing this, can you please not jump a lot, because that's a viable dodge mechanic that is prohibiting melee from actually hitting a lot of their targets.
You know what's funny about that? Back in 2.0, I said there's a delay when you jump. The way it registers your location is not correct. And I actually thought about using it in turn 5 to avoid twisters at some point. So the fact that it's now carried on to become an actual problem in PvP, when people ask me, is jumping still a thing? Yeah. There's your proof right there. That it's still definitely a big thing. And I play Marauder in PvP. I've had so many people slip away at 100 HP because they just like, boop. Just, come on.
And that's from, like, straight from the producer's mouth, right? I mean, that was the post, was from Yoshi P. It wasn't a dev thing. It was straight from Yoshi P. And that was one of the big items was, until we get this fixed, don't, come on, guys, stop jumping. Could you stop? Really, guys, please. No more jumping. It was like, okay, now PvP is kind of broken when you have to say that. One of the other things, as you know, I was trying to finish my cycle through all the grand companies because I'm a minion whore.
Yeah, and I know what you're going to say right now,
yeah,
too.
And so I started PvPing more after our initial 2.1 episode, which was the mini review. Yeah. And I got to, I think, like rank 5, rank 6, rank 7. I had a skill or two, something like that. But I was on my second free company, and so I had to switch into my third one. And I didn't think about it until it was time to switch that, oh, shit.
you know what's funny?
Not only did I lose my rank, but I lost my points, I lost my skills and everything. So I have not PvP'd at all as an Immortal Flame because I've got like 10 days before I can kick back to Maelstrom and be safe. So, yeah, a bit odd if you're trying to get max rank or minions or things like that, that not only do you lose the rank with the Grand Company, which I expected, but you also lose the ability to use the skills you've already earned. Which kind of was a kick in the nuts for me.
It's a free respec.
Well, not really, because if you come back to that Grand Company, you're locked in place still. I don't know. That one kind of bugged me. All in all, 1 through 10, most of chat, it looks like they've put this at about the 5 to 7 range. Some people are being a little generous. Where do you put PvP?
I'll give it a 7. A 7 was exactly what I was planning to go to. Sure, there are a few balance issues, but I mean, I could name any game that's got PvP that's got balance issues. So the fact that it just started and there's balance issues, almost a good sign that there needs to be some more changes to PvP. I mean, we didn't really get a good test of PvP when it was available in beta phase 4. I didn't get any test because I was trapped in Limsa Lominsa. But I think it's almost a good thing that there needs to be PvP balance changes. It almost speaks for just the way PvP ends up playing out in most MMOs. There's no MMO that's got, perfectly balanced PvP. And I think after they do some of that, fix the jumping and the matchmaking, taking 1 point for each of those things, I think it'll be a lot more enjoyable of an experience, at least for the masses.
I don't know if I can go 7. That just seems high to me. I'm going to have to go with some other peeps in chat here and stick closer to like a 5, a 5.5. Because to me, not only are there balance issues, which you do expect in any MMO as soon as they integrate PvP, whether it's at launch or post-launch, you expect those, and we have those. But we still have technical problems with the feature as well. As basic as jumping causing issues. It's not like this was an unknown variable going into it. The diminishing returns on sleep is really, really bad. It's all told, to me, it's still a somewhat pleasant distraction. But I've got to put it at like a 5.5. I don't think I can go any higher than that. On top of that, the matchmaking, which forces brand new 50s to queue into the 30 and 40 bracket so they don't get morale beat in the face, which in turn makes it harder on the 30s and 40s in that bracket. There's too much here for a 7, which would, to me, would be mediocre PvP. I don't think we're at the mediocre PvP level. Let's switch over to the PvE. You're giving me the laugh.
Yeah.
What's going on? You don't like my PvP ruling. So let's go to PvE, which is more, to be honest, which is more your and my forte anyway.
Yeah.
You know, you like PvP more than I do, but at the end of the day, we're both pretty much PvE guys. Pretty easy to say the biggest PvE piece in this was Crystal Tower, 24-man raid. We got the new primals. Well, primal, kind of primal in Ultima weapon. Yeah, it's like primals. We got the extreme modes. So there was quite a bit of PvE. Let's break down the Crystal Tower first, being the big one. Let's kind of shy away from the whole not being able to queue as 24-man. I think we beat that to death an episode or two ago. It sucks. You can get around it. We have gotten around it very easily in Gamebreaker Nation. I mean, you were watching tweets that I had going up the day we were periodically just running it back to back to back as 24-man Gamebreaker Nation groups. So, yeah, you can get around it with the Duty Finder and the languages depending on your timing. So let's kind of gloss over that, and let's talk about the actual PvE. You had a video talking about the quest line and the fates to get in. You were not a fan, which is strange because on this very show, you talked about liking the idea of fates in quests in response to lightning and how that all worked out. Not so much anymore.
No, not with these. And granted, if you fail it when it respawns, it will be a little bit easier because it'll only be scaled to one person. But I did that. I waited. I let one fail. I hit him a few times. I let it fail because it was scaled to more than one person when I got there. And then I respawned. I was the only one in the area, and I sold it as my warrior, which, by the way, is average item level 88, I think. And I have all that self-sustain and everything. Sure, I may not have as much damage, but I'm a warrior, so that's debatable. It took me about 7 or 8 minutes to solo that fate. And I can imagine if I didn't have the gear level that I had, that I may not have completed the fate, even with the solo scaling. And if you're gonna do that whole quest to fate thing, fate quest relations, you gotta make sure people can do it when, you know, consistently with lower item levels by themselves. And sure, you can shout, and most of the time somebody running by will stop and hit it for you. You know, people are generally nice, and they are in areas. Well, at least one of them is in an area where a quest, you know, all the daily quests are going on, but it's not always that easy for some of the other ones. I just don't like it. It's one of those things that people are going to have to do if they start playing the game in 2.3 and they want to do the new Crystal Tower. It's to be expected they'll probably need to do this quest line, beat the original Crystal Tower, which is a issue in itself that people might have later on if it's a requirement. And then that's until then they're not in the new floor of the Crystal Tower.
Well, it's got to be, you know, done because Yoshi P's already said in discussions about both Crystal Tower and Coil that you will have to beat the existing versions of these things to play the 2.2, the 2.3, the 2.4, and all the way down the road, the subsequent releases in those areas. The Fates, obviously, you know, the first day or two, they were flat out broken. That sucked.
Oh, yeah.
And I waited. Yeah, I waited too. I don't have as much of a problem with these as you do. And I think it's because, in my mind, they have to scale them and eventually will because of the influx or the lack of influx of players doing them at any given time. And Hildebrand, we're going to talk about that a little later, that zombie fate kind of suffers from the same thing that we're talking about here, where there's not many people doing it anymore.
We will talk about that. I have a different opinion on that one, and I did state that in the video.
Yeah, well, you're partial to Hildebrand. I don't get it.
Well, no, I have a good reason for why I think that one's okay as opposed to these ones, and I already touched on it a little bit with this one, but we'll get there when we get to that one. I'll speak about why that one's
baby. You're such a Hildebrand defender. We're gonna disagree badly when we get to that spot. So let's talk mechanics then. We've got 4 bosses. You start off with the Bone Dragon, and I don't think we're giving any spoilers by talking about the mechanics.
They're all
now.
they were they're all over.
They're all over the place.
Most people don't even know the mechanics. Somebody just says go stand there and shoot the boss, and just if something happens, shoot it.
So we got Bone Dragon, who is beat up the DPS beat him up with DPS when the Skellies spawn, drop them on separate platforms so that when they pop back up, they don't get speed buffs, and burn them down before they get to the dragon type deal. I actually kind of liked this fight the first time or two with the mechanics. I thought it was kind of neat. All in all, though, I'm not very happy with the way it's turning into long term. It's becoming the awesome fight where DPS and tanks, if they're not working together, it's an absolute train wreck. You move on from Bone Dragon and you get into the Thanatos fight. Creative fight with 3 pots, defending the pots that are turning each group into ghosts so that they can beat up Thanatos. King Behemoth, who arguably is, at least in my book, the hardest of the 4 bosses in the fight, in the entire instance. If you're not working together, that one's an absolute train wreck. And then, of course, the final fight with Acheron, fun. You know, all the bacon bits and all the different AoE stuff going on the ground. Very clever, very pretty, very fun fight. But all in all, I don't know. I think I'm going to have to give the mechanics, and most people are talking about it being a 5 to a 9 in the chat room. I'm going to have to give the mechanics, I don't know, about a 6, a 7. I mean, they're just kind of average to me. It's fun. It's creative, some of the mechanics. It's very easy to pick up, and it has to be because of the inability to queue with 24 pre-made. So it's got to have a little bit of give and take there. But all in all, I'm going to put this one at about a 6 or a 7-ish. And it looks like I have lost Mr. Poveromo on the old Skype, so I'm going to get him back. But chat looks to be about, chat is agreeing mostly with me, 7 and 8. Decent mechanics and bacon, but we've got 4s, 5s, boring fights across the board. So it looks like it's a kind of a mixed bag of nuts here. Now, as far as the actual loot, which was a huge deal going into the launch of Crystal Tower and only being able to get 1 item per week, this has become, to me, one of the things I cannot stand about the Crystal Tower. We have tomestones of philosophy and mythology. Great. It's nice to grind it. But Crystal Tower, to me, should be that area where you can grind out gear for your subsequent classes, the classes that you are, your 2nd, your 3rd, your 4th, your 5th classes. Unfortunately, not working out that way. And there's been a ton of times that we're seeing the same gear drop. So I think the percentages might be off a little bit. That, and if you're the last one to pass or you don't take an action on the loot, you're getting forced into the gear and it's thrown in your bag. And if it happens on a Monday, boom, you're done. If you don't get that, if you don't click pass or something, you don't get the loot, and you get stuck with whatever is left. It is the worst loot system ever. I give that part a 2. So, Mr. Happy, you're back on the line now.
Yeah, my computer's still booting up.
That's all right. Mechanics, I gave a 7. Loot, I gave a 2 to. And chat was all over the place with the mechanics of the 4 boss fights. What are you thinking?
Mechanically, I think because of the fact that it's sort of like a mid-tier raid where a lot of people already have the gear and a lot of people, a lot of people also don't have the gear. But because of the mix of gear, those mechanics could have been a lot harder. And not that I wanted them to be harder, but because of the overscaling of everyone's gear, it's hard to appreciate any of those mechanics. Some of the trash fights have more impressive mechanics than the actual boss fights do. King Behemoth is the only one that really has some sort of real sort of mechanic that if an individual player does not perform, it can cause problems. Whereas Thanatos, Bone Dragon, unless it's a main tank or any tank where they're dragging the skeletons, it's pretty hard to mess up everything. So I'd say I give mechanics a 5. I'm going to go less than 7. As for the loot, I don't do Crystal Tower enough to really have that much of a problem with it. But I did tune back into when you were saying if you don't pass anything, it's sorry, but you're stuck with whatever you're getting. Mostly a problem on Acheron. That, I don't know, 2 seems a bit low because the loot itself is pretty good. And it always seems like Crystal Tower, despite the whole way the loot system works, is usually buzzing. So I'm going to go with a 5 on that too. I don't like the whole pass automatically thing. But other than that, I really don't have a problem with the once-a-week deal.
The once-a-week deal is a mess. Chat room is yelling that they can't hear you give a 5, because I think your computer shut down, might have reset your mic volume. So we got it, chat. He's going to turn it back up. No big deal.
No big deal.
So you give the loot a 5.
I do.
I can't even give it that high.
My volume is actually at 41 right now.
I can't give... I can't give it that much. A 5. It's a 2. It's a 2 at best. People are getting stuck with loot. I understand chat pointing out, hey, if they let you get as much as you wanted out of Crystal Tower, then Darklight becomes meaningless, right? There's no reason for that tier of gear anymore if you could just farm the hell out of Crystal Tower. But people are using Crystal Tower to gear alts. And I'm so sick of seeing, because we roll with pretty much the same group, right? If you get in a party with 8 people, that's usually the party that you stick to. It's your free company people, and maybe you sub 1 or 2 people in and out. But for the most part, like on Gamebreaker Nation, there's 5 or 6 of us that stick together, and we kind of sub in the 1 or the 2. And we're seeing the same gear drop, which nobody needs. It's the 1 a week needs to go away. It was bad when they talked about it to me prior to Crystal Tower coming out, and it's even worse seeing it in implementation, specifically because the bug where people are getting stuck with a piece of loot was something mentioned in a live letter.
Yeah.
Before the launch of 2.1, somebody brought it up as a question, and Yoshi P said, "Oh, that's a good question. I'll need to check with the devs to make sure that doesn't happen." 2.1 comes out, and it does happen. And it does happen. The loot is the worst part. I enjoy Crystal Tower. It's fun. I understand why it's maybe a little more on the easy side because of the whole 3 different parties and not necessarily everybody being able to voice communicate. Yeah. I want to see that when they do address the issue of you being able to queue as a 24-man pre-made, I do want to see a different difficulty level for it. I don't want to see essentially the looking for raid version of it. All in all, I kind of give Crystal Tower an average mark. I put it at about a 6 or about a 7 as a whole. It does what it's there for, which is farming your tombstones right now. I want to see more out of it as we progress, because this wasn't even the tower. You were dead on with that call. Yeah,
I had a feeling. I saw no way that this was the base floor of the Crystal Tower after that little reveal. And, it's not. Bottom line, I don't even know if most people know what's going on in there to begin with, why we're even there. What is the point of this labyrinth? Why can't we just, please? Can we?
I enjoy it. And chat, you're absolutely right. It does what it's there for. I want to see more. King Mogglemog. Now, this was the 1.1, a carryover from 1.1. It's kind of the almost primal, but not quite primal. Maybe a primal. Could almost be a primal. Be. Is a primal's little brother. I don't know. Not really much to say about this one. If you saw it in 1.1, it's pretty much the same fight. The classes have changed a little bit. But for the most part, it's generally the same fight.
Yeah, the only thing that they took away some of the abilities of the 1.0 version. I remember the Bard used to have an ability where he would enlarge the good king, make him really big, and he would just go straight for a player. And if he reached that player, I think he'd kill him instantly. I don't know why they sort of delved away from that. I guess because he's part of a main story plot. Maybe it'll come back in the extreme version. I don't know. They changed a few things, but once you get over the fact that only 3 of those Mughals can even be tanked, the fight gets a lot easier once you realize, because a lot of tanks panic going into that fight because they're like, there's 8 targets. What do I do? There's only really 3 targets that tanks have to worry about.
Yeah, it's all about kill order. If you queue up with the duty finder and your peeps don't know the kill order, you're done. It's gonna hurt, and you're gonna be there for a while. The music is awesome, right? Best music in the 2.2 patch or 2.1 patch. At least I think so. My favorite music. You had a lot to say about music, not only in Moggle Mog, but in other aspects of 2.1. So I think this is a quick one. I give Moggle Mog an 8. I enjoy the fight. I enjoy the music. It's fun. It does take a little bit of work until you figure out the kill order. And then once you get it, it's reliably farmable. It's not like a Titan hard mode when you thought you had it on farm and 2 landslides all of a sudden changes everything, right? It's reliably farmable. I'm going to give it an 8.
I am going to give it a 7 for the simple fact that it didn't fulfill its role of actively giving people a place to seek additional weapons. That was its intent, on top of being a plot device. I feel like it didn't succeed there at all. Nobody is forming. At least I've never seen a single Thorn March farm party to get a weapon for somebody who doesn't have their relic weapon yet. Everybody still goes right from Garuda to Titan. Probably not just because that, it makes the most sense, but it's accessibility, as opposed to having to do all the main story that you might not be interested in right this moment. You have, I beat Garuda, well, time to go fight Titan. So it's a little bit lower of a score for me, just because it doesn't feel as practical as they made it out to be.
Well, you just hate Mogs, I think was the end result there. You just don't like Mogs. Extreme mode. This one's all you. My group right now is on Garuda still. We really didn't put any time into extremes from launch, with the exception of our last 2 raid nights. We went in and started learning the mechanics. So I'm going to let you take extreme modes. Chat's still saying your mic's a little low, so if you can give them some extreme volume to talk about extreme modes.
It's turned pretty loud. People are saying it might be coming on my headset. I am looking at the levels. It is definitely not. And Skype says that my levels are really high too, because I even turned it up on Skype. So
yeah, you're deafening me right now. I've done everything I can to jack you up on my side. So the extremes is all you. I'm not even going to give it a score. I don't feel comfortable enough with progression in there to give it a score. This one's all you.
The thing is, with extremes, it's again another mid piece of content. So people who are already geared, desiring it a little bit for side grades. Mechanically, I was impressed. It definitely looked like they learned a few new things when it came to the primals. They started implementing mechanics that may not be so night and day with. Not so night and day simple. For example, on Garuda, you don't tank swap with Garuda herself, but there's an ad that needs to be tank swapped individual of Garuda. Also, there's a lot, and I mean a lot, of mechanics that involve distance between 2 targets. And I feel like they just wanted to test every possible incarnation of that sort of mechanic. Yeah, they have one where it's 2 enemies apart. They have one where they have 2 where it's 2 enemies apart, and then the third one where it's both the players' distance between each other. So mechanically, I'll give them a 9 out of 10. I think if we were at the right item level, if we were even daring to attempt to do them at the item level they're recommended for, I think those would be unfathomably difficult to complete. As for just their overall purpose, not sufficient until 2.2 is the best way I could think to put it. It's not like Coil was at all, and I don't mean unbeatable. But obviously not unbeatable, got beaten once. But just not sufficient until 2.2. So overall I give it about a 7.75 out of 10.
I liked your videos.
Thank you. I'm booted on the right mic, by the way.
Yeah, I think chat just hates you. I think that's what it is.
Well, I mean,
they think you scored. They think you scored
Crystal
Crystal Tower loot way too high. They don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. It's all over. The love is gone for Mr. Happy. We got on the PvE side new dungeons. Chat, this is the one that you guys have scored already a couple of times. I've seen you guys throw it in there, but now it's the official scoring for the 2 hardman dungeons and the new dungeon. So let's talk about these. How did they pan out? First off, we already reviewed that we got the guesses right. Each of us split on one. You called Copper Bell being a hard mode. I called Hawk, however you prefer, Manor being a hard mode. So we split that one. All in all, the two of them, environment-wise, you totally know you're in a hard mode. As soon as you walk in, you know you're in the hard mode. For the most part, I don't think the layouts changed as much as I thought they were going to change.
Yeah.
I mean, they did change a little bit, and of course the bosses and the mechanics changed an awful lot, but the layouts of the place, I still think that there's some instances where there's huge blocks of real estate hidden and inaccessible that could be utilized in these hard modes and probably will be in the future. So I would have liked to have just seen some variation there more than we did. But that being said, the 2 hard modes, particularly Hoke Manor, which I love, and and Copper Bell, which I'm just kind of on. Same thing for you. Yeah, Copper Bell was just kind of the same thing. I mean, the boss is almost the same at the end. It's the normal version's father. So it's
even the second boss is in some degree very similar. I mean, it's still press button, except the only thing is you actually have a bomb as opposed to it being a physical bomb. But then there's bombs anyway. The whole point is you're not fighting the boss directly. You're using some sort of explosive device to take care of them. So even the second boss didn't feel. The first boss, I think it was more of an ad fight, but I think the first boss to me was the real, I guess, impressive one of the 3 in Copper Bell.
Yeah, the hard modes I'm going to give a 9 to. Overall, both of them. Individually, Hoke rates better than Copper Bell, but I got to give them a 9. I like them. I like the mechanics. I like the new bosses. I want to see a little more out of the layouts change in the future, and I think we're going to. The hard modes were probably one of my favorite aspects of 2.1. I rate them very highly. Pharaoh Sirius, on the other hand, just kind of seemed like it just fit. You know, it wasn't anything grand. I like the layout. I like the boss. Most of the bosses. There's
Third boss.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the
doesn't even give loot.
Right. The third boss is kind of like
doesn't give philosophy, my bad.
Kind of like turn 3 for me.
Yeah.
But
same number.
Yeah. So and then there's a lot of people having problems with the last boss.
And the first boss.
And the first one. Particularly healers on the last one, but you pointed out in your video, epic music.
Oh yeah, and
epic music.
Almost makes me want to score it lower, and for the same reason I mentioned in my video, that I can't hear it the whole time.
Yeah, you were mad because you got to the siren and it was this chintzy battle music.
But not even that. Even every individual battle puts you back with the battle theme, as opposed to just playing it out the whole dungeon. Even if they're gonna change it to the generic boss theme music on siren, don't interrupt my epic background music with the in-combat music. And not to mention, that music almost feels like it belongs in the siren fight, because it's a very siren-y theme. It's like a siren is singing to you as part of the song.
It's a siren-y theme.
It's a siren-y theme. That's an adjective. Come on. That's totally an adjective.
To me, it just kind of fit average, like a 6 or 7. I'll give it a 7 because the music kind of pulls it up a little bit. But it was, it didn't knock my socks off, but I like it. If I queue it up in the duty finder, though, it makes me want to punch my kids, because that's sure to be a nightmare. I'll take the half hour off.
Take it out. I shouldn't take it out on
I didn't say I would actually hit them. I said it makes me want to. I would never. I got Pharaoh Sirius. Come here. No. I think they did well with those. They did feel different. The The experience thing is one we should talk about.
Mm-hmm. Hey, you didn't even give me a chance to rate these.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just because nobody can hear me doesn't mean that I can't give my opinion. So, I'm gonna rate them all individually. I'm gonna rate Hawk a 9. Every boss, except for maybe the first one, is hard if you're it's not necessarily hard, but you actually see what's going on in that fight when you're at a lower item level. So that fight is still good. If you're a higher item, I didn't even know that skeletons converged in that fight for the longest time because they just died. The second boss, fantastic. It was a new model. It was a predictable pattern, but for your first time going in, it's just complete chaos, but not too difficult at the same time. And then the third boss, just if the average item level, might want to bump that up a little bit because those DPS checks on that third boss are not pleasant for people doing it at the recommended item level. So overall, hard dungeon, fun dungeon, atmosphere is good. Could have used more of the place, like you said. 9 out of 10. Copperbell didn't impress me that much. Again, a lot of the same paths. Atmosphere different. First boss impressed me. Other two didn't. Give it an 8 out of 10. And Pharos, not just the music, I just liked the entire dungeon layout. I liked progressing up the lighthouse. I liked a lot of the dungeon mechanics that were in it. The things dropping from the ceiling, the zombies raising off the ground, the etheric valves. I just liked there's a lot of dungeon mechanics in there. So I'm going to give that one a 9 out of 10 as well. I just really like Copperbell the least.
I think you just wanted another dragon as the final boss to something.
You know, the third boss is a dragon technically, right?
It is a dragon.
I don't know, because those things are kind of like, it's like a dragon, bird, pterodactyl thing. I don't know.
And speaking of dragons, we've got Game of Thrones Season 4 getting ready to start, but maybe you want to peek ahead and see what's going on. Well, I gotta wait for you to do that for free 30 days and a free book. You check out Audible here. Audible, the website for a 30-day free membership and your book for your Game of Thrones. Get yourself started. I think book 3 is the one that 2/3 of it is like in the previous season and 1/3 of it is in the upcoming season 4. But let's take a little peek at Mr. Martin's Storm of Swords. I can't hear it. I can't hear it.
I can't hear it either.
That's all right.
Hold on, I'll pull the stream up so I can listen to it.
There you go. Pull the stream up. You can listen to it there. You can listen to these on your mobile devices, on the go. I like to throw them up behind my raids, which is probably why I'm not a very good raider. Come to think of it, I'm probably listening a little too much to my Audible books. I actually signed up for this a long time ago when I wasn't even with GameBreaker. I did the whole GameBreaker free trial, got my book and everything. So I've had it. Gary's had this for like 7 or 8 years. I've had it for maybe 2.5. And I don't know what I would do without it. It makes my rating a little bit easier to bear when we're wiping on shit over and over and over and over and over. So check out Audible, particularly your Game of Thrones, A Song of Fire and Ice. You've got that coming up, Season 4, just around the corner. Moving on. We do have experience changes in the amount of experience you get in the dungeons. And it's quite good, isn't it? No, that is a failed mic check, sir. I can see you point, and that's it. I cannot see you or hear you in any way, shape, or form. So in the dungeons now, we have almost a 300% experience change if you're using the duty finder. There you go. Back to normal. Just leave it there.
Yeah, I was because I heard myself on the stream and I was like, wow, I am really low.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about it mid-show. I told you we'd have a technical flaw with Gary out. We tried to wing it. We didn't want to delay it. It's all right. Hey, we're lucky the damn thing's recording, Mr. Happy.
Hey, nobody asked about that. No, it's like, you're recording, right?
So queuing up with the Duty Finder now gives you a 300% roughly bonus to experience, particularly your first ones through.
Yeah.
The big question was, is this going to be a viable leveling alternative so that you didn't have to grind fates over and over and over and over again until your eyes bled? I'm going to give it a big yes, but you're still grinding fates is probably mathematically in most situations still going to be a tad faster. But this is definitely a nice way to take the fate grind off, in my book. Big fan.
The thing is, and a lot of people don't do this, people do the duty roulette. That's great. It's good for the one-time bonus. After that, if you queue up for a dungeon your level and get in the queue in a reasonable amount of time, it is significantly more enjoyable than Fates. Again, I can't say that it's definitely faster, only because it's probably inconsistent amongst the different roles. DPS will probably have more success Fate grinding than they will that. But what does it matter? Everyone go do escort leaves before they nerf them.
Right? Right? Chat's already kind of beat me to it, but the experience change for the dungeons is a 10. It's a flat 10 in my book. It needed to happen. We wanted it to happen. We were excited when they announced that it was going to happen. The way it's implemented is great. It's one of those deals right now where if you've got that class, like I have Arcanist at 50, I have Black Mage at 50, I have Conjurer at 30, enough to unlock White Mage. So it's sitting there, and I'm like, I already have the Unicorn. I'm like, if I can get 20 more levels, that'd be really nice to get the Archmage title. You know, the titles nobody else can see but me. But but it'd be really nice to get that title, but I really don't want to level my White Mage. The dungeons are a real nice way now to queue up once for a low-level dungeon, bang out a level, if not almost a full level. You know, you get a full level pretty much, or pretty damn close in most cases, counting the mob experience that you get. Yeah. So even if you don't really want to sink a ton of time in the class, you could jump on the class, do a low-level duty roulette, call it a day, and in 15 days you can gain, 15 to 20 levels. It's just a 10 all the way around for me. Definitely something they implemented very, very well.
Now, question about your 10. It seems like it's including the duty roulette since it's about the EXP changes.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
So you must really love Sestasha and Halatali then.
Particularly Halatali. Halatali is the one that I can't get enough of. I love Halatali.
Yeah, I got it 4 days in a row.
And
then I got Ifrit on the 5th day, which was a royal treat.
In 2.15, that is going to change. They already talked about it on the forums, that the queue is favoring the low-level dungeons to an extreme that is becoming annoying to players. So they are going to revamp that a little bit, so hopefully we won't be hitting Halatali every single time we queue up. While we're on the subject of Duty Finder, since that was a new feature, something I really like, I'm going to score it average, though. It does what it's supposed to do. It can't really excel. I would rate it. I would give it a higher score, actually, though, if you were able to queue as partial parties. It really bothers me that you can't, and that's just a feature that, to me, it should be there. You and I queue up. It should be able to recognize that if you're the party leader and you've queued for a random, then that should also consume my low-level random for the day as well. For some reason, the system doesn't do it, so it only lets you solo queue. And I would assume down the road we'll see that, but all in all, I can't really bitch about the Duty Finder. There's so much in this patch that has taken the grind off of WP and AK that it's really hard to bitch about it because it's fun. I'm having fun doing this stuff, even if there is a little bit of repetition here and there. This is going to be the lightning round on the scoring, though, chat, so get ready. Get ready. There's no way we're gonna see your answers in time with the Twitch delay in chat anymore. So if you have a bullet point or two on them, go for it, Mr. H. But other than that, let's get a 1 through 10. The Party Finder tool.
7.
I agree. And you made a point in your video, which I 100% agree with, is you may not even know the damn thing's there. Yeah. Because you actually have to click on Party Finder to get the tooltips to explain the Party Finder to you. And it's kind of hidden in the new menu system. So, yeah, bring it out a little bit more and it'll get a higher score. There's some weird stuff in there, though. Some weirdos in there. The Daily Beast Tribe quest. You were not looking forward to these.
No. 7. They're dailies. That's what they are. They're dailies. That's all they are. I'm not gonna give that a 10. No. And so far the story elements not enthralling me. So 7.
I think you're wrong.
I don't even know what all those numbers are for.
I think you're wrong. I'm gonna give them a 9. I mean, they're dailies, right, and we expected them to be, typical daily fare. But I do like the story interspersed between each ranking up. I do like the fact that the dailies rotate, so you're not doing, even if you go to just the Amulja and you're just grinding their rep, you're not doing the same Amulja quests every single day. They do rotate those in and out, too. I think there's enough variation that even if they're dailies, they still don't feel like, oh, God, I gotta go kill 10 rats today so that I can get my 7 reputation. I'm going to give them a 9. I think they do what they're supposed to do, and they do it in a way that isn't as grindy as I've experienced in other MMOs. I like them. What else do we got here? The player commendation system.
7.
Yeah, I think it does what it's supposed to.
It does what it's supposed to, especially when 4 people queue up for a guild hest that nobody does at the same time.
Yeah, this thing can be abused to all hell. And I'm going to actually rate it less than 7. I'm going to give it probably about a 6.
Oh, and that mouth is ugly as hell, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then it takes 500 to get. It's just like, I don't want to save up. The only reason I care about it at all is I got to get to 50, right? That's where the minion's at. There you go. So I'm at like 25 or 27 right now, something like that. So I'll get it. But it could be abused to all hell. Particularly, like you said, changes in your languages, getting into the guild hests, you can abuse it to all hell.
Oh, yeah.
So it really doesn't mean too much. But it is nice when you leave your random low-level dungeon and you see you've received player commendation 1, 2, 3, and you're like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I healed your ass. The vote to kick tool.
I've only seen it used once, and it got abused in that one time. So, it's a necessary tool, in my opinion. I give it an 8, because I think it's going to get abused, but we've spoken about this in previous episodes so much. It's going to get abused, but it's also needed to some degree.
I didn't want it implemented, and now that it's implemented, I don't think it's working as intended. This is a 4 in my book, a 4 or a 5, until it's cleaned up, and some of the abuses, which again we saw a post, what was it, today actually, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. That they are looking at some things they can do to help this system from being jobbed. So we'll see what they come up with. I don't think it was implemented very well. 4 or 5. Storyline additions. We talked about Moggle, but I think we should note that to even do that fight, you have to continue the storyline that you may have completed in 2.0. I liked it. They revealed a couple key points that we knew were coming in the lore based on the way 2.0 finished. And they left some nice cliffhangers there, too. I'm looking forward to 2.2. An 8. Yeah, it's satisfying. Not stellar, but it's satisfying.
I'd say the biggest problem with the storyline is you get it all right at the beginning, and then you don't care about it pretty much until the very end. I felt like right in the middle, it was almost like, it's like I was seeing double with Coerthus when I got to that point in the story, where I got there with a purpose, and I left there with a purpose. But the entire in between, I could have done without.
Chat is kind of sticking around 9 and 10. So I'm
gonna give it the points that were there though. I did greatly enjoy, so much to the point where I will still give it an 8. But that whole in between of just, it was like is this a story, or am I just leveling again? Like, what is this?
You're such a baby, man. You're such a baby.
I was like, yeah, by the way, this is what's going on. Go finish all of that and come back to us at the end. We'll give you a cool little cinematic.
It was like 10 quests. What are you bitching about?
8 of them felt like they were pointless.
It's not like you finish, you knock it out in like 2 hours.
So sad. Go do 2 quests for them. So they'll feel better.
Oh.
Make them feel better.
Treasure hunts.
I give those a 9 out of 10.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't like them.
I like them a lot.
And I'm a big Final Fantasy, you know, we're both Final Fantasy XI guys. Treasure hunts were a ton of fun there, and choco digging, and yeah, it was great stuff there.
Listen, I was a max rank chocobo digger. I don't want to hear that was any fun. I don't want to hear anything about. I guess it took me 467 stacks of Chaosal greens, whatever the hell I don't know. It took me that many to get from rank 2 to 3, and I got to 9 at some point.
You give it a 9. To me, it's a 7. The treasure hunts, again, they do what they're supposed to do, but after you've done a handful of them, it's just, oh yeah, I got a map. I'll do that sometime. I don't feel compelled to go and, oh shit, I got a map. Let's give me 7 people. This is level 50. We got to do this right now. I don't feel that compulsion to, I need to get this right now and find what the treasure is. It's just, oh yeah, well, I'll do that after we're done raiding tonight.
But Bluebird, actually, Bluebird's cheaper than the Tomberry.
I have those though. I got them. I got there's 3, aren't there? I got Bluebird, I got Tonberry, and then what's the third one?
Because the third one gives blue fox hides.
What's the other minion then that I'm thinking of? I don't know. It'll come to me. But I have Bluebird, I have Tonberry. I thought there was a third one that was one of those, but I could be mistaken. Oh god. What's next on the show notes? This is all you. And chat's already, story was an 8. This is a 10. This is a 10. This is a 10.
This is a 10.
Hildebrand quests.
This is definitely a 10. And you know what? Like I said, I was going to touch on the fate thing. The reason why this fate doesn't bother me as much, you can go in and solo it, no problem. There's not even a shred of doubt in your mind when you kill that first zombie that you're not going to be able to finish this fate. It's up all the time. It's always available. It's soloable, and it's funny to boot. It's hilarious to boot. It's a funny fate. That's why I don't have a problem with it. It's easy to solo, and it's actually funny.
Oh, by the way, thank you, Chad. It's Tiny Bulb was the other one that I was thinking of that was related to
the third one.
Yeah, okay. There is a third one. I should be just showing off my Bluebird. I do. I go to do Binding Coil, and I stand outside with the Bluebird. Hildebrand, yeah, I agree. It's a 10. It's freaking home run.
The only drawback was too little of it in this patch.
Well, and I think that's because it had a huge tease at the end, right?
Oh, yeah.
And there's
tease, which we won't spoil yet. We'll give that another few episodes before we go in.
Yeah, if you have not done the Hildebrand quest, which there's a lot of people that haven't, go do them. And I can see why this character and this whole quest thing rubs people the wrong way. You either score this one a 10 or it's a 2. You know, you either absolutely love Hildebrand or what the hell is this doing here? Please, come on. This is
my immersion.
Right. This is really dumb. There's really no in between there. So, but it's a 10 in my book. But it is worth doing even if you don't like the character, because there is a sneak peek at something coming up, which is a pretty big deal. One that a lot of people, when they saw it, were like, "You're kidding this soon?" Because we didn't expect it. To be a 2.1 tease and possibly a 2.2 feature. We don't know yet. But, yeah, go do it even if you don't like Hildebrand. And if you do, it's a home run, 10 out of 10. Menu and UI changes, to me, they nailed them. 10 out of 10 here for me.
Yeah, totally. The only thing is they didn't let people know that much about the new... Sure, you have the patch notes, but when logging in for the first time, if you didn't read the patch notes... It took you a while to learn where some of the new things are, and it's only people who actually look through them that even found Party Finder. So while I do appreciate changes, I would like more sort of announcements in game when you log in that let you know about them. That's the only thing I want to. You can implement all the things you want, but if people don't know about them, people don't use them, they're pointless.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Only thing I think, I will give them a 9 out of 10 for that one reason, just because we weren't expecting it to begin with until the patch notes actually dropped, and then when it did drop, there wasn't a great deal of explanation about where to find things, and it was a little bit annoying. People had to figure it out for themselves. Not that that's a problem, but if you're thinking about the masses of people, there are people who are gonna find the change not so enjoyable.
Yeah, and there's people in chat saying that they give it a 9 out of 10 because they're still looking for stuff. I'm still looking for stuff, too, occasionally. I think it's just to get a use. But quality of life across the board, this patch, home run. 10 out of 10 for quality of life. There's still more quality of life things I would like to see. I'm not saying that they put in everything that I want or would like to see. I'm saying that the things that they did put in, it's a home run. They did them well. Anything you want? I'm done. Anything we didn't cover that you want to give a 1 through 10 on?
No, only because the barbershop I haven't even unlocked yet.
Oh, see, I unlocked it, but I haven't used it at all yet.
I have not touched it. I haven't even seen the cutscene yet.
All right, so here it is, chat. The Ultimate 2.1 review. We've gone over it all. You've given your scores. Put your scores in chat right now for the overall 2.1 experience. You've had a month now. Where do you rate it, 1 through 10? Happy, you're first.
8. And it loses those 2 points in being a mid-tier patch, which doesn't affect, which is actually good for the masses, you know, the people who are taking their time with the content. And like I said before, I think that's what this patch is perfect for, is for new players and for people who may not have been progressing that much in the Binding Coil. It's perfect for them. Just my own personal thing, because I'm somebody who just devotes a ridiculous amount of time into the games that I play, that took a point away from me. The other point that it lost it on is just a mix of some of the things I've said while we've been rating these things, just some of the negatives, just taking away another point for me, all of it cumulatively. I don't think I said that right anyway.
I can see where you're going with your 8, and we were worried about this at the beginning, before this even launched, right? How was this patch going to fare with people that had already killed Twintania? You know, what was it? Because likely you were going to run through everything within a week, and quite frankly, your group did. You know, we haven't even talked about housing because we kind of really beat that whole cost issue last episode.
Yeah.
But your free company is and particularly your 8-man raid group is a group that tore through the stuff in a week. And so what does the patch look like? I think, yeah, it makes sense that you would rate it a 7 and 8 somewhere in there. Most of chat is kind of sticking around 8 and 9. I got to give it a 9 simply because I'm on the side of the board that I'm on turn 4 right now. You know, so I still have turn 4 to go and turn 5 to go. This mid-content tier is doing what it was designed to do for people that are in my group and behind. Give them an extra thing to do, to go get one extra piece of gear, to go get one extra batch of tomestones so that you can save up for that gear, to +1 a little faster with the cap raise and everything. So I think there's a ton to do. I haven't done it all. I still have the extreme mode primals to go. I still have, like I said, turn 4 and turn 5 to go. And we're 2 weeks away from 2.2 live letter already. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I give the overall patch a 9 out of 10. Housing is absolutely, to me, the one they screwed up the most, but we kind of beat that to death.
Housing, actually.
Go ahead and grade housing. I think you're the only one. I give it a 0 right now.
Yeah, and I don't blame you. I give it it's pretty low. It's around a 3 for me. Now, the cost is affecting that. And despite the fact that it's cool that you can, you know, rearrange it, and there is a lot of things you can do with a good creative mind, the fact that it actually has no purpose by design in patch 2.1 and is nothing more than a place for you to raise your teleport cost by 700 gil every place you go. Yeah, it's the fact that it was designed that way for people to take 3 months to get the houses, and then for the content for the house to actually be added in 3 months. The fact that it was designed that way gives it, even for the people participating, I think it's a 3 out of 10. And only because the 3 out of 10, the 3 comes from, it's really fun to decorate.
And chat is kind of not on my side here. Some of members of chat feeling like I don't like having to earn things. That's absolutely wrong. I like housing being something that you and your grand company or your free company really, really, really have to work for. I like the idea of things in MMORPGs, whether it's Final Fantasy or not, that not all players will get. I like that idea. I like, you know, Elder Scrolls is talking about implementing, if you become an emperor, then you get a skill set for PvP that other people don't have access to unless they become emperor. I like that type of stuff that you have to work for. My problem with housing right now, why I give it a 0, isn't that you have to work for it and it may take 2 or 3 months, is that it never, ever, ever, ever was talked about as that type of item until launch day. That's the problem that I have with housing, the way it was implemented. If it was more a, hey, guys, you're really going to have to work for this. I mean, free companies were saving up 15 to 25 million gil and thinking they were going to be fine for large houses, and saving up 5 to 10 and thinking they were going to be okay for small houses. And those numbers weren't even close. We're talking 10, 20 times more than that in some cases. So it's not that you have to work for it. I love that. No, I don't want everything to be Care Bear. I like the idea that some people, there's going to be things in a game I won't experience for one reason or another. It's the way it was implemented that I don't like. We got to wrap it up here, though, so let's jump real quick. 2.2, 2.1 is out. What do we got for 2.2? We already got a few tidbits about that patch prior to 2.1, so we already know we're going to see some primals.
A single one so far is all we know.
Confirmed, yeah.
Yeah, we know we're going to get Leviathan. Only confirmed primal that we've gotten so far.
And we also have PvE dungeons. Now, this is a viewer asked a question as well, so we should probably just answer this right now. We're going to see PvE dungeons added. We're going to see additions to Coil this time. So turn 6 plus, we know however many turns they're going to do.
Hopefully turn 8's as fun as turn 3 was.
Oh, God. And then, of course, we're going to see their plan is to always, with each patch, do 1 new dungeon and 2 hard modes for existing dungeons. So I guess it's time for us to go out on a limb, and what's going to get the hard mode treatment this time?
Well, we already know what the new dungeon is.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think me and you both agree. We didn't think Amdapor Keep was going to see a hard mode anytime soon. Now I'm definitely sure we're not going to see a hard mode of Amdapor Keep.
Agree.
Anytime soon.
Yeah, if you guys didn't catch that today, the Ruins of Amdapor Keep is the tentative title for the new dungeon. So it looks like we're going back to keep continuing to explore the mythos and the lore behind Amdapor as the new dungeon. So yeah, I agree with you. That kind of totally knocks AK off the board as a hard mode in at least 2.2.
Yeah. So I am gonna go with Sestasha. Reason being, we're already doing things with Leviathan and the Maelstrom. It's a very active area this patch. So I think revisiting Sestasha with all of the problems with the Sahagin, I think we're gonna see a very Sahagin-filled Sestasha hard mode. I think that makes perfect sense. The other thing I am expecting is Brave Flocks. Again, because it's in the area, and again, because of the sort of attention they're putting on. If I had to label a backup, this doesn't count as my vote. The only thing I would back up is Darkhold.
He's like, there's going to be 2 hard modes, so I'm going to pick 6.
I'm going to pick 6. The thing is, I don't think Darkhold. I don't think
Darkhold either.
But I can see how it would happen, so it's not my vote. I don't think it's going to happen. I just wanted to throw that out there based on the hints we've gotten so far. I don't think it's coming, but just throwing it out.
I agree with this. Ought to be interesting because I agree with you with Brave Flocks. I think that's logically a hard mode that we'll see in 2.2. On the other flip side of that, though, I'm going to go Halatale. And I think it's just because there's so many different areas that you can peek into in Halatale that I think a lot of that's
my reason for picking it last time.
I think there's just a lot of stuff there already, and so I would like to. I think Halatale is what we'll see next. We are 11 days from part 1 of the Osaka live letter, which goes up the 25th of January. Obviously, we don't want to spend too much time on the live letter. Do you expect any shockers? We've already seen that it's going to be about Coil editions. It's going to be about the Ruins of Amdapor Keep. We've got a couple announcements, miscellaneous announcements. Are you expecting anything stunning out of the part 1 or part 2 of this? I kind of look at the Osaka live letter as being an away game. Right? Yeah, so I'm not expecting too much out of this one.
Miscellaneous announcements usually bring something interesting with it. And please don't hate me for bringing this up, Mr. Byrne. Please don't hate me. I'm going to ask you a very quick question. When was Scholar revealed to everybody as the 9th job? Do you know this off the top of your head?
I don't know the exact date off the top of the head, but it was I don't know the event. It was the event right before our actual launch.
E3.
Yeah.
E3. That's 2.5 months before launch. Bob?
Yep.
So we're 2.5 months before the next patch, and Maelstrom is our big hint.
That's fair.
It could be a job announcement.
No.
I don't think so. If it's anything, see, my thing is, if it doesn't happen by 2.3, it's really not happening until the expansion. And the only one I think they could possibly have planned is Musketeer into Corsair or Ranger. Only thing. The only reason why I looked at it potentially in this patch was because it would be easy to implement a dedicated ranged DPS into the game with the way it's developed now. It would be easy to do. And it's about that time that the Musketeer Guild's been there for 3 years now, man. It's got to do something eventually.
Yoshi P did write. I mean, you keep throwing the word Maelstrom around, and if you didn't catch it on the lodestone, there's a quote from writing from Yoshi P in which he said he likes sleeping people in PvP. He said, work on PlayStation 4 is full steam ahead, but needless to say, we're already waist deep in work for patch 2.2 as well. Leviathan is preparing to unleash his fury on Eorzea. New quests, items, and recipes are being added. The Binding Coil of Bahamut will see additional twists and turns. Oh, and in case you were wondering, the key word for 2.2 is looking to be Maelstrom. What the hell does that mean?
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, it kind of fits with Leviathan, right? A whole disastrous, you know. Talking about PlayStation 4, though, Square Enix might be learning some lessons on the way people sign up for betas. If you remember the way you had to sign up for betas through 9 different websites and putting keys in initially, not so much this time. As long as you have a PlayStation 4, you're in open beta from day one. Congratulations. Yeah. And it's still tentatively scheduled for February 22nd, which I guess is not so tentative. I mean, Yoshi P sounds really sure about this.
Yeah, and you know what's funny that you said they learned something? I feel like they learned it like a week before they made that announcement. Because the prior announcement to that was that, don't worry, PS3 users, you guys will have beta access immediately, which almost hinted that they were thinking of having another one of those processes originally and auto-including PS3 owners. It might have just been an early way of them saying, the way we're going to do it, you guys are okay, don't worry about it. But the way they said it, almost it's like they realized late, like, yeah, we should not do that. Let's just, everyone, open to it.
We said April on previous shows for release. I'm still seeing April.
You said April.
Yeah, I said April.
I'm
sticking by April.
Yeah, well, didn't he literally announce April?
Pretty much, yeah. So now it's just a question of what week. How close can I get? Yeah. So, yeah. Before we head on over to the viewer questions from the viewers, which if you ever have a question, throw it on the Facebook, throw it on the Twitter. Make sure you put hashtag GB Reborn in it. Even if you put hashtag GB Nation, it'll pop up on the GB Nation website feed. Come on over to GameBreaker.tv or GameBreaker Nation and sign on up. Have some fun in Final Fantasy. Throw us your viewer questions. We love video questions. Love them, love them, love them. Keep them to about 30 or 60 seconds, and post us the link for YouTube. We'll be happy to use them on the show. The funnier, the better. If you want to wear a Mog costume like I did, that's encouraged. Or if you want to wear a horse head and celebrate the bizarre holiday that is Heaven's Turn.
No.
Heaven's Turn ended today, so if you didn't do your horse heads, you're done. Let's go to viewer questions. Tansian says, there is a minimum eye level for hard plus dungeons and primal fights, but what are your recommended eye levels, Mr. Happy?
About 5 higher on everything past Crystal Tower. I think honestly, Hawk, Copperbell, and Pharos, it's set a little low. I think that while it can be beaten at those item levels, I would probably not want to throw 4 random people at those item levels in the same dungeon and trust all of them to be pitch perfect, which is what it would require at those item levels of 48. Crystal Tower, 55. I could see it being tough, but doable. And then after that, it gets more and more unbelievable based on some of the damage I took. I remember my item level 77 warrior did Ultima, and with Inner Beast and Vengeance on, which is a 50% multiplicative damage reduction, I got brought from 7 point something KHP down to 0 in about 3 seconds. So it's especially the extremes. I actually want to try them in full item level 70 gear to see what they would be like.
I am going to say that if you're going to queue up for your random 50 and be able to successfully complete Ferris Sirius in that situation, I level 90. Next question. Derek Jumper says, what 2 dungeons do you want to see get the hard mode and why? So I guess we answered what we think, but are those the ones that you want to be hard moded?
I still want to see Halatali, and I actually want to see Darkhold, which is why I gave it Dimension, because I played 1.0 and Darkhold was pretty much the first dungeon we got. I would love to see it return to some of its former glory, and that's really the only reason why. I think Patrol is just so cool that I would like to see what else they can do inside of that place.
I would like to see Halatali as hard mode, so I'll go with that one. The one I really wanted, I got in 2.1. I mean, I really, really, really wanted Manor to be a hard mode, and Yoshi P, he must have saw those emails I sent because I got it.
Email address?
Right. Nick Baker from the Gamebreaker Nation, good guy, has 2.2 questions. First, do you think Twintania is getting the nerf bat in 2.2 with the release of the second wing of Binding Coil, or is it a little too soon?
Now, I like this question because he's asking specifically Twintania. We know all of Coil is getting a nerf in such a way that the Echo works, where you get that big damage HP buff. There are things about Twintania that, even with those buffs, can be problematic. I think we will see things change. I think, for an example, I think Dive Bomb's knockback, how far it knocks you back, will be reduced. I think that the snakes will have their stats lowered a little bit, because they have higher stats than Twintania does. I feel like they all have more attack damage, evasion, accuracy than she does. So maybe something along those lines, and maybe they might increase the time for destroying conflagrations. I think there's definitely some Twintania-specific Coil changes coming in 2.2.
I agree, and it's sad. I wish there weren't, because I think there's an awful lot of groups that are in my game space. You know, that we are in the turn 4, just trying to finish turn 4 and get into turn 5. There's a lot of groups that I think are right in there that if we don't get this down in the next month and a half, you're done. You don't get to play.
Still, it's just not going to be the same.
It's not going to be the same, and I want it to be the same.
Way that guilds like that were competing for World first felt when only BG got that.
Right, exactly. The same emotions. I agree. Second question from Nick Baker. We hear about battle class progression, but no crafting progression in 14. Will 2.2 bring progression to gathering or crafting?
Now here's the thing. I think they're going to release either item level 80 or item level 90 crafted gear. With that, I'd imagine they'd have to implement triple star.
They'd have to. Yeah, because craftsmanship and control would be through the roof at that point.
Yeah, and which would mean that there would be potentially either item level 60, 65, 70 crafting gear, what you'll actually wear, which would probably mean some new crafting quests, or it may just mean, I don't know. I think, yes, I still don't think it's the progression crafters and gatherers are really hungering for. I would like, when he mentioned the recipes, he did mention them alongside Binding Coil. I would like to start seeing some raid drop recipes.
I could not agree more. I'm sick of stupid chests laying around and
only having potions.
Yeah, only having X potions, and yeah, let's start seeing. I wish we could see like patterns, right? I mean, the game isn't really built to do that. The way the gathering and crafting professions work and the logs.
Did say
he alluded to it, yeah. That is potentially something down the road. I would really, really like to see that type of stuff implemented, because right now, there is, if once you get to max level in a profession and you get that profession's gear and you materia it up enough to be able to do the 2-star stuff, you are the exact same as every other crafter that did the exact same thing. Now, the only variance that I can see in there is, did you level up some of the other jobs to get some of the abilities that, maybe guarantee high quality? But all things being equal, if you and I level the same things, there's only one set of endgame gear we're putting on for those professions. There's generally one set path, and you could vary the materia a little bit, but there's really one core path that most of us are going to follow. So if you and I are doing the same things, there's nothing that makes us different. I like things like going to that chest and getting a super rare pattern, and now you are slightly different goldsmithing than I am. I like stuff like that, and I would like to see that type of progression. Last question comes from Mobius Dreams. Wonder if they will comment further on personal housing in 2.2.
I think their comment is the perfect word, because comment is exactly what I think we will get. At most is a comment about it, whether or not it's even still in existence and development.
And that comment will be, please look forward to a comment on personal housing. Yeah. You know him as Mr. Happy, Mr. Michael Poveromo. You can follow him over on the Twitters at Mr. Happy1227. Thank you, sir. Great show. It's nice to be back. It's nice to be back.
It would be nice to not have a power outage in the
Yes, no power outages next week. I am Mike Byrne, a.k.a. Magic Man. Thank you for coming and checking out XIV Reborn on GameBreaker.tv. Hope you'll join us every Tuesday at 4 Pacific. That's 7 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget your viewer questions, and you can, of course, follow me at MagicMan1, MAGICKMANN1. Until next week, gang, have fun.